strap and pick. Allen key and a really cheap cable. To the bag. So what I have here is a Glarry GJazz bass that I bought on Amazon for $66. Plus $29 shipping. I bought it solely for the body because I realized that I have basically almost all the parts for a Squier bass minus a body just sitting around. And I thought it would be a great way to put together an instrument that I could have as a backup for situations like playing outside in blazing sun or if it's going to rain, and just really not have to worry at all about damaging a prized instrument. I liked the look of the transparent yellow, as they called it. Not really interested in keeping any of the rest of it, but I wanted to do a quick sort of first impressions review demo. That's what we're going to do here. And then I'm going to take it apart and swap on all of the parts that I want to use, and we'll see if that works. This is my first encounter with this instrument. So the first criterion is design. And, the goal here is to have something that looks like a jazz bass, which it definitely does. And the hope was that the body is actually interchangeable with parts from a Fender or Squier jazz bass, which I will be finding out shortly. I've already discovered one thing, which I'll mention in a bit. What about a jazz bass copy can we talk about as far as design goes? There's nothing reinvented here, so I feel like the most I could give as a score for design would be maybe an 8. If a jazz bass copy really did something original, like some of the things that Sadowski's done, I think you could get a 9 or a 10 out of that. There's certain details that Sire puts into instruments that I like the block inlays, that I would maybe give an extra point for. The best score this could get is an 8, but I feel like I don't mind the shape of the headstock, but the Glarry decal is really stupid looking, in my opinion. There's some other just sort of fit and finish details that, like cheap strap locks or strap hooks that just kind of ding it a little bit. So I'm giving it a 7. Now onto the neck. The neck is unfinished in the back. I like a satin finish, so I appreciate this rather than a gloss, but it's not as smooth as it could be. It kind of needs to be sanded a little bit more. It's also a little bit uneven in some spots. There's some attention to detail in that regard that's just lacking. I will say that the fretboard, it looks nice. It's not super dry. If I were to be keeping this, I would be lightly sanding the whole thing and oiling it for sure. I will say for sure, though, that there's no rough or sharp fret edges. As far as the neck goes, it feels okay. I'm also giving that a 7 just because of some sort of sloppy lack of attention to detail. So then moving on to the nut. The nut is just cheap plastic, and the slots are not cut very well. The slot for the E string is too big, and I think also they're cut too deep. If I hold down on the 3rd fret, there is absolutely no play at all, and you want just a little bit. So, and we'll see there's some buzz as a result of that. Maybe the truss rod adjustment will fix it, but this nut is, not good. So I'm giving that a 3. Looking at the bridge, again, this is some kind of cheap metal. It's not really chrome. It's a standard sort of basic bridge design. It's actually using 7 screws rather than 5, which I find kind of interesting, but it doesn't really change the fact that it's not a great bridge. It's fine. It has all the features you need for being able to adjust intonation and string height and all of that. So, it's functional, but it's kind of the bare minimum. So I'm going to give the bridge a 6. So then I'm moving on to the hardware. Here I'm talking specifically about the tuners and the knobs. tuners are pretty functional. They're cheap metal. I mean, everything, all the metal on this is cheap. I don't know if it's what they call pot metal or what, but they're okay. And I've used the tuners and they work fine. I'm kind of on the fence about giving the hardware a 7 or an 8, but I'm going with a 7. So the action is pretty low. It may not be quite playable as it's currently set up. I actually like how low the action is, up around the 12th fret, but it's way too low down here. It's like the string is almost touching the fret. This is a, beginner's instrument. Whoever would be buying this typically would not know what to do about the action. There's no instructions or anything. It did come with the Allen keys for making the adjustments, but if you don't know that that's even something that you should be doing, there should be at least a playable amount of setup done on the instrument before it's shipped out. I mean, down there, it's no good. Farther up the neck, it's fine. Because it needs a setup, I'm going to have to give the action a 3. So next we want to talk about the electronics. And by that, I'm really talking about the potentiometers. We should talk about buzz. Yeah, if I turn up the amp, there's a lot of buzz with the individual pickups. I mean, they're at least wired correctly, because if you turn them both up, they cancel each other out and the hum goes away. But yeah, that's pretty rough. This is just the neck pickup with the tone all the way up. And with the tone all the way down. Bridge pickup all the way up. And with the tone all the way down. Okay, and if we put them both on together, the electronics actually seem pretty decent. I probably should wait to score it until I open up the cavities and see what it looks like inside. But my initial impression is that they're pretty good, and I'm going to give them an 8. My judgment of the electronics kind of goes hand in hand with the pickups, because we're listening to those pickups. Just feeling these pickups, the plastic that of the covers is just this weirdly crappy plastic and very sharp edges. I normally don't judge the way that the pickups physically feel as part of the score, but I think that, and also just looking at the condition of the pole pieces, I mean, these are really not quality pickups. They actually sound okay. And there's obviously a lot of buzz when they're soloed. If I went strictly by how they look and feel, I'd say these are garbage and probably give them a 3. Listening to how they sound, though, and I mean, you actually get that kind of distinctive jazz bass bridge pickup sound. So sound-wise, I feel like I would give the pickups probably a 7 or an 8. But balancing everything out, that puts it at a 5. I'm talking about the sound. I've kind of already talked about it. It really sounds okay. I think if you had to get up on stage and play this bass after you had it set up properly, I think it would work. The sound is okay, so I'm going to give the sound an 8. As I suspected, there is absolutely no shielding of any kind in the cavity. Don't think I'm going to keep those potentiometers, but they're not as bad as I thought they would be. Screw hole is, in fact, like kind of overlapping into the cavity slightly, so that's not great. Here again we see, of course, no shielding. I think for the cavities, there's a lot of, I didn't even notice because I didn't lean over this far. There's a lot of polish residue. There's a little bit of that along the edge here, but then there's just a big glob right there. Well, that's going to probably knock my score for the cavities down a little bit. I was going to say that I would give the cavities probably a 6, but maybe I'll say 5. No extra credit at all for this. It comes with the gig bag, but it's garbage, so it's not worth even 1 point. I'm going to try to do a really quick truss rod adjustment and see if I can get this action improved. All right, I think that's good. So, how has that affected the action? Still reasonably low. Even with the truss rod adjustment, we're still getting buzz at in the first couple of frets because of the nut issues. The nut is just cut too low. Once we get to the 3rd fret, it's fine. And actually, the action is still pretty decent up here. I actually really like how the action is here. The first fret, especially on the E string, it's really just, it's unplayable. That nut is not good. So I'm giving the nut a 2. I think, we're screwed because of this nut, but once you get above the 2nd fret, I really like the action. So I had given the action a 3. I'm going to give it a 7. So the score was 59. Now it's 62. So that is my final score for this bass, 62 out of 100. So that's as far as I'm taking it right now. I'm going to put together my other parts with the body. One thing I want to note before I get into that, and the thing that I've noticed when I tried putting these in here, it lines up with the pickup, lines up reasonably well with the control plate, but the neck on this bass is cut differently, where it actually extends farther than the Squier neck. Assuming that the screw holes for the neck plate on the back line up, it should still be swappable, and by using one of those pick guards with the neck, it'll be fine. If I used this pick guard with it, there would be a gap because there's maybe 1/8 to 1/4 of an inch of extra wood past the last fret. I had some camera snafus during this segment, mainly because I ran out of storage space. It's a perpetual problem. To sum up, here's what I intended to have go into this bass. Glarry GJazz body, Squier 40th Anniversary Vintage Edition neck and neck pickup, Goto tuners, Squier neck plate, random leftover Squier control plate and wiring harness, Fender Player Mustang bridge, one of the pick guards I just had in the drawer, DiMarzio Ultra Jazz noiseless bridge pickup. so here we have the final product. The only parts of the Glarry that are still here are the body itself and, surprisingly, the control plate and potentiometers and the associated wiring. Had a few surprises along the way. Didn't expect to be using the drill as much as I did. I didn't expect to be using sandpaper or a sanding block, but the end result is pretty much what I wanted. I've been looking at Fender American Professional 2 Jazz Bass 5 in natural with the mint green pickguard, maple fretboard. That's really been kind of an instrument I've been coveting a little bit. And so I was able to more or less create that look here for a substantially lower price. Obviously, it's not a 5-string. These are Squier Affinity Precision Bass tuners that I ended up using. The neck is from the Squier 40th Anniversary Vintage Edition. So is the neck pickup. Then we've got the bridge pickup is a DiMarzio Ultra Jazz. Speed knobs that go to 11 in amber. That just seem like a nice touch here. And Squier neck plate on the back. And the bridge is from the Fender Player Mustang. I actually did a video about the problems I had with this bridge on the Mustang and ended up swapping it out. Kind of has some of the same issues here, but intonation adjustments make the angle of the screw not be quite as much of an issue. After I put a shim of 2 business cards inside the neck pocket to raise the overall height of the neck, and I did a truss rod adjustment, and the action is a little bit higher than I would like, but it's pretty good and definitely playable. This neck feels great. I've always loved this neck. Squier did a really good job with the 40th Anniversary Edition. So overall, I like the look of this bass, and I was able to do it for $66 plus shipping and just parts that I had on hand. The neck pickup does still have a fair amount of buzz. If I turn up the gain, there you can really hear it. So that's not great. But if I use the DiMarzio noiseless, there's no buzz with that at all. So considering that this is just a backup bass that I want to use for situations like playing outside in blazing sun or potentially getting rained on, both of which might be happening tomorrow. So yes, I am taking this to a gig tomorrow. I will bring another bass as a backup just in case something goes wrong with this. But I really am pretty pleased with the results. Tone about halfway. Neck pickup soloed. It's a lot more punch, and I see it's overloading the microphone. Just the bridge pickup. So I think it's going to be usable for sure, and I really do like the way it looks. Bottom line, should you buy this Glarry bass? No, at least not for what it is. I understand if you really cannot spend more than $100, it's a tempting option. But for a beginner, this bass is not really playable. Even if you know how to do a truss rod adjustment, it's not really playable. $100 is not a deal when you need to pay a shop to not only do a proper setup, but also to install a new nut. You shouldn't have to replace a, let's call it, non-user serviceable component of a brand new instrument in order to use it. That's not to say you shouldn't buy this bass for any reason. I bought it after all, and not just to make this video, although maybe that was part of it. Considering that Fender is currently charging $400 for just a jazz bass body, it's a steal to get this bass for under $100, even just for the body alone. If you've got a bunch of parts lying around and you want to build a new instrument from them, but you need a body, I think this is a great way to go. Just bear in mind that it may not be a seamless drop-in replacement. You might have to tinker with it a bit.